Afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Lots more coming in. Keep coming. It's like when they announced that the original lineup for Sugar Babes was performing at Glastonbury. It's rammed. Welcome, everybody. I'm radio and TV presenter Anita Rani, and welcome to the Edinburgh International TV Festival's Adolescence Masterclass. I was thinking about how to open this, and I feel that we should give them the round of applause that actually this TV programme deserves, which is... Thank you. There you go. Yeah, you know, so we're going to nerd out. Okay, so first of all, on the 13th of March, Netflix dropped a 4-part UK drama about a 13-year-old boy who's arrested for the murder of a girl at his school. At its heart was a burning question for its audience. What would you do? The reaction was unequivocal. Here are some extraordinary facts for you. With 142,600,000 views, it's Netflix's second most watched English language show, topping the charts in 71 countries, making history domestically by becoming the first streaming show to top the UK's weekly TV ratings, beating traditional PSBs and serving as a key indicator of Netflix's growing dominance.
That's a round of applause.
Yeah. Absolutely. 172,600,000 and counting. Now, most recently, it's been nominated for 13 primetime Emmys, including Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series, 4 nods in the Supporting Actor and Actress category, and Outstanding Cinematography. We're lucky enough to be joined by 3 direct nominees on this stage. Also, who am I kidding? Let's get these on. Cannot lie about my age anymore. Not that I ever had, by the way. 30. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, no less, praised the series. Here's what he had to say. A torch that shines intensely brightly on a combination of issues that many people don't know how to respond to. A national conversation erupted. The entire nation was facing an inconvenient truth about young people and social media in 2025. The conversation spread across Europe, the US, the world, everywhere, except Kemi Badenoch's house.
Nice.
It's now free to watch in schools in both the UK and France, and has been central in conversations about the UK's online safety bill, as a case study in television. There is possibly no finer example of what so many of us in this room and at this festival will strive for. But how do you take a subject matter as raw, as provocative and difficult to watch, but make sure the world can't look away? Well, to help us understand, I'm going to introduce you to this rather incredible panel. Let's start at that end. We've got Director of Scripted Series at Netflix, Qureshi. We have Emmy award-winning Christine Tremarco, actor and executive producer Hannah Walters, Chief Executive Creative Officer at Warp, Emily Feller, writer and co-director Jack Thorne, and next to me we've got Emmy-nominated Director of Photography Matt Lewis.
You haven't won with Emmy yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Also,
you might have.
Also on stage with us, we've got Donna and Greg, who are our BSL interpreters. And of course, there's time for your questions at the end, so you can use your apps to get sending those juicy questions, please. So let's start at the beginning. I think we have to get a reaction from what was said this morning by, let me get the information up, by the new Channel 4 news boss, Louisa Compton, because she made the statement in a speech this morning. It's everywhere. She said that Channel 4 are the proud parents of adolescence, and she's described Netflix as TV tourists. What's your response, Mona?
My response is sort of my initial response was consternation, if I'm honest, because nothing about where I am and where we sit and the conversations we had about and around adolescence at the beginning really come out of anything other than us as within the UK Netflix team being solely about finding shows and speaking to our local audience. So, and that is really just what anyone else is doing, which is building on the relationships and trusting the relationships with creatives that we know and that we've had relationships with over years. And many of our UK team and our sort of, within our Netflix UK scripted team and our entire team have worked at the BBC, have worked at Channel 4. We are all part of the same ecosystem. Adolescence was simply came out of something which is us reading a script and responding to this fantastic creative team and just being utterly compelled by this story from the get-go and really wanting to go on the journey and being inspired by what this team are doing. So no one's thinking global, let's make something globally. It's just about being in tune with what the local market wants, and what we as commissioners feel inspired and compelled by. So it's confusing to me in a way because I think we're so about the local, but I don't want that to be the dominant thing in this conversation because it really is about how marvellous this team and show and how brilliant this experience was.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk about the whole programme from concept to execution, but can't not talk about big statements that have been made this
I don't
morning.
think I'm a tourist. I've been around since about, well, I'm not going to say. I've been around a lot.
Jack, you and Stephen were named as talent that's been nurtured for Channel 4. What would you like to say about it?
I don't know, I can't speak for Steve, but I was.
Well, I'd like to say that if anybody nurtured Stephen, I've done quite a good job. I'll take that. After 32 years, I'll take that award, thank you.
Yes. Are Channel 4 the proud parents of Adolescence?
I mean, I started Channel 4. I was lucky enough to get my first shows away at Channel 4. My first, second, third break was at Channel 4. I'm really grateful for Channel 4. But I'm excited that Netflix is moving into this space. I think the real problem we've got in TV at the moment is a certain conservatism that's crept in because of the recession in the way that we commission shows and the shows that writers are being given the opportunity to make. And I think any broadcaster that's prepared to take a risk on a wild swing, which is what this show was, it should be applauded for it. And I would applaud Channel 4, I would applaud the BBC, I would applaud ITV, whoever it is, because there are lots of writers, probably in this room, there are lots of writers that want to tell their stories. And at the moment, I don't think they're being given that much opportunity to. Yeah. So we should be being inclusive as an industry and bringing Netflix into this conversation so that more of us can be given the opportunity to make the shows we want to make.
And yeah, absolutely. And I think we should move on to talk about the programme. But Emily, did you take it to Channel 4? You don't have to answer that question. You don't. Could be cheeky. So, come on,
You
Jack.
snooze, you lose.
Jack, where did the idea come from? Let's start at the beginning.
It started from Stephen, who's sadly in Pittsburgh at the moment, with a shaved head playing a psychopath. That's fair, isn't it?
It's a nice little cheeky family. Yes, that's fair to say.
And Steve, so Phil had this conversation with Plan B.
Yeah.
And Plan B said that they were interested in him and Steve and working together on a one-shot format. And then Phil and Steve talked and ideas started to brew and Stephen got very excited about doing a show about knife crime. Thankfully, he phoned me. In fact, I think Hannah was the first person I spoke to on the phone call that day.
Probably.
And so in the Hannah Stephen kitchen, which is a vital part of the whole of Adolescence, they persuaded me to come on board. And I said to Stephen, and I don't know what conversation he then had with you about it, why don't you write it with me? And Stephen was brave enough to say, yeah, I'll put another hat on and I'll give it a go.
Yeah, he was super excited about the thought of doing it with you and has been wanting to do something like that for a long, long time, but just needed to know that with you by his side and working collaboratively together that, he'd be able to do it and, do it successfully, which is what you did.
And so when did Warp get involved, Emily?
So Warp when I started at Warp, we already had the most incredible script that Jack and Stephen had written. So I was lucky enough to see this and go, this is bloody brilliant, cannot wait to get this made. But Jack and Stephen had worked with Warp for 15, 20 years, a long time,
very long time.
And it was all about that relationship and giving the trust and friendship with us to come on board. and make it with them. And so when we got involved in that first year, it was actually, we stumbled on the writer's strike at one point in the first year. And so that was a huge effort on our side, where we were working with putting together budgets. Our brilliant head of production, Leo, if she's in here somewhere.
She's in here somewhere.
I think she is, there we go. Putting together budgets, we were starting to talk about casting. We were trying to do everything else around the show because we couldn't get any more scripts.
Yes, I mean, that's also partly to do with the relationship we had with a previous streamer that was stopping us moving on, and the decision that Stephen and I made was that because they had the first script and they were taking a while to make their decision as to whether they wanted to make it or not, and we were excited because we had a window for Phil and we had a window for Stephen and we had a window for Matt that we didn't want to lose, and so we made the decision to write Ep 2 and 3 on spec. Ready, that if whatever that streamer decided, we had a going proposition because we believed in it.
Yes, there's a lesson in there and just being proactive and keeping it moving. So how do you keep up the momentum, Emily, when you've got knockbacks and you've got writer strikes and you've got people who can't make decisions?
How you keep momentum by keeping everything moving forwards. And you've got to, as Jack exactly said, there's the dates that we are going to make this in. We have to make it in this day, and you've got to believe that. I'm not saying you jokingly manifest it, but you know that you've got to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so we got everything lined up as ready as we could. And when we had the meeting with Anne and met with Netflix, it was ready to go, really. And so we got the green light, and starting prep was within 4 weeks.
Right. So, Mona, when you got the script, what was your first reaction? And how quickly did Netflix green light it?
I think it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean,
You greenlit it in the room.
We greenlit it in the room. So we had the script. I think you guys had sent the script through.
We sent one, two, and three. Didn't we not send
one
three?
originally.
It might have been 1 and 2, but we
yeah.
certainly, by the time we got into the room, I mean, we were sort of properly, Anne and I were like properly on tenter. We just knew. Because it was so undeniable. It just so, and probably everyone knows this, but it's so rare you get something that just gets you by the guts so quickly. And then we thought, here's a thing that could be world dominating, and we could put Brad Pitt in it. It could be a global smash. But it was just sort of, I think it was impossible to not look or read that script and not be immediately grabbed, I think.
I think you said, like a lot of people that read it for the first time, that you and Anne read it simultaneously, but actually couldn't have a conversation about it for just a short while until you digested it and thought about it and had time for it just to sit with you, which was everybody's reaction, which inevitably was the audience's reaction, thank goodness. Was that true to say?
Completely that. And I think it's sort of like, it was such a special thing, to be honest, that it's sort of, it's a bit like when you've listened to and this sounds sort of, you know, Jack Spare Your Blushes and Stephen in Pittsburgh, The Shaved Head Spare Your Blushes, but it really felt like, you know, that experience of something when you read it for the first time and you wish you could go back and read it for the first time. Because you kind of knew the minute, it's sort of like watching that first episode. Once you know. But actually when you have that first read of it and you just cannot but hold your breath that entire time until the end of the episode, and probably the CCTV. I mean, everyone has their moments in it, but that first episode, sort of in the read and in the watch first time, you're just, it sort of floors you.
Absolutely. And what is that feeling like to have something greenlit in the room? I don't know if anyone's had that experience.
We maintained our composure.
Did you?
Yes. We got out into the street and shirts were above the heads. Running
Amazing.
Well, just mine.
Hannah, tell us about the casting of this. Did you already go in with a cast of characters? How did you go about picking?
We used the most wonderful casting director, whom we all love and worship and adore.
Shaheen Beg.
Yeah, she's just incredible. She's just top of the game. She's amazing and wonderful. I can't say enough good things about her. We used her predominantly because we knew that we needed to find these very, very special young performers, which we did. We had in mind certain people that we wanted for certain roles.
Yeah, how do you go about casting your husband's wife?
She's the only one that would put up with him. No, it's because I think this was because of the backstory of Eddie and Manda.
Yeah.
It was so important because they've got years worth of history together. It was really important to cast somebody that had, you know, as much as we can act through that, if you've got that natural chemistry, you've got that natural history that Christine has with Stephen, because they've known each other literally since you were babies, kids. So their mum, Stephen's mum, knew Christine's mum, and they've grown up together.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a no-brainer to just know that that chemistry would be on screen, but also to know that you would be with somebody that you could trust, and Stephen would be with somebody that he could trust because of what they had to do in those scenarios.
Christine, what did you think when you read the script?
And she's awesome as well.
Oh, no, please. You are so... I had a moment, Christine barely made it because she just got off the train like 10 minutes ago and like swooped in like just like that. And I saw you and I couldn't believe that I was in the... I had a moment where I was like, oh my God. Like, I just wanted to hug you and my heart slightly broke when I saw you. I don't know if you had that reaction.
I was sweating.
Yeah, no. Like,
British Rail.
You were so... It was extraordinary.
Thank you,
all of
Thorne.
you extraordinary. And we'll talk about various actors in it. But when you read the script or when you had the conversation, I don't know, how did you get involved in it?
I just phoned you.
And what made you say yes?
Yeah.
Hello, love.
It was a phone call. It was a phone call. Stephen called me, Hannah called me, and I spoke to Phil as well. And when the scripts landed, I was literally... I read episodes after episodes, and it was really funny because Steve was messaging me going, what episodes are you on now? Have you got to 4 yet? Have you got to 4 yet? And I just, I was blown away. I was blown away. And it's like what Mona said, you know, it stays with you. That first read stays with you. And I cried. I cried by episode 1, I was crying. Like every single episode, I was crying, and especially when it got to the CCTV, like what you mentioned, and then episode 4, and it was just within itself. You know, I think the pace of the script, like the way Adolescence brings the audience with it, reading it does that, and you're in it. But yet, I was blown away by the writing.
Yeah. Can we discuss the casting of Owen Cooper, who played Jamie? He's never acted before.
Well, he had acted. He was part of a drama school, a mob group, drama group mob, I think they are called. So he had experience. He'd just not had any on-screen experience. So this was his first on-screen experience.
What a risk.
Incredible. But we just...
What if he'd been shit?
It wouldn't be the global success it was now, would it?
Dinners, if you remember, we, if I've remembered it rightly, we didn't quite set it. We didn't quite know the location of the show because we didn't know who Jamie was yet, and we wanted to be as open as possible to it being a kid from Warrington, where it turned out, to a kid from Rotherham, to a kid, you know, we wanted to keep it really open. We knew about Eddie and Manda's backstory, but we didn't know where to locate them because we wanted Shaheen to have the widest net.
So therefore she had 500. We narrowed it down to 500, and then that had to keep getting narrow, more narrow, narrow, until it was down to five young actors. And Owen got the part, but what we did do was give the other 4 actors that were up for the part of Jamie other parts within the production itself, which is not we didn't want them to have gone to all of that trouble and go through all of that rigmarole of going for auditions and then to have to be told thank you but no thank you. So it was we're not going to give you that, but we are going to give you this, so that they gain experience, so that they gain knowledge, so that they've got that. Do you know what I mean? That they can feel that they've made a success. It might not have been that, but it's still
That's
that.
beautiful.
That's so beautiful and so nurturing and so important in our industry.
And so rare as well.
Yeah.
Well, it was really important for us to do that.
And it's coming across on this panel, obviously. I think it comes across through the product, the incredible piece of art that you've made. But Matt, you and I were talking about it this morning when we met. the trust in the team and how important that is.
Yeah, immense amount of trust. I think we would all say that. We've sort of got this very natural shorthand that's sort of, I think for something like this where the stress is really high, you know, it could be really high. I think you need to be able to lean on each other and know that you won't be, you know, chastised for making a mistake, because there will be mistakes all the way through. There's going to be hundreds of them. I walked into a wall once in one of the takes, you know what I mean? Like, it happens. We just carried on.
We can show you which wall in a minute over there.
Yeah, I'll point it out.
Which one it was.
Yeah, I'll knock that wall over when I'm over there. Yeah, and you know, you need to know, you'd be comfortable enough that you're not going to be in trouble when that happens, because it will happen, and it's about, okay, how do we negate that next time? So.
And I think, sorry, I think we all approached it in the way that, yes, we're all experienced in our industry, and we've all got different levels of experience in the experience. None of us have made a one-shot TV series before, so therefore we've all got to be as open, conversational and collaborative with everybody, because we're all on the journey together. And I think that it was that lack of ego and the wanting to hear from everybody that I think made that.
Yeah, we were working it out. All of us were working it out, so we needed every single idea to come to the table and to be discussed.
And the best idea,
well,
at the end of the day, the best idea won, right?
Yeah.
If it came from somebody that wasn't, you know, supposedly supposed to be coming up with them.
Although, Matt, you have made you have shot one shot.
Yeah, not a TV show.
No, but it was a shot.
Yeah, I did a feature film called Boiling Point.
Called Boiling Point.
Little BAFTA nominated.
And how old were you? How old were you when you made that, Matt? Sorry to go on.
17. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I was 23, I want to say, something like that.
There you go.
And when we did the film, you were younger when we did the short. Yeah, but when we did the feature, 23.
I mean,
We're all old people who've worked in the industry an old time. And then we brought this little boy with us.
You just took it to another level.
Sorry.
What was it like? How different is it writing, Jack, for a one-shot?
Totally different, and in a really exciting way, and it's changed the way I write forever. Because the one shot is all about following a partial path. You can't tell the whole of something. You can only tell one version of something, and you can only tell it for a breath. And so it's all about the incomplete. So you tell the story as authentically as possible within that hour, and you try and answer or give as many trails of questions as you can within that hour, but then you've got to leave it go. So there's loads of things that I would have written very differently had we been able to cut around. And the show would have been entirely, you know, we would have gone into Katie's house, we'd have gone home with the Millers afterwards, we'd have done all sorts of things in a different way. We wouldn't have spent as long in bloody corridors and up staircases.
Walking into walls.
Exactly.
No, that still would have happened, I'm sure.
But you know, and the questions we answered weren't the questions that you normally answer in a show. So, for instance, in episode 2, Bascom is spending all the time looking for a knife. We never answered the question as to whether he found the knife, whether the knife, what the knife meant, how much the knife was important, evidentially, in terms of Jamie's case. All that stuff got left by the by because we trusted the audience that they'd understand the vocabulary of what we were doing.
Yeah, we did. Also, Ashley Walters, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Incredible. Did I read that he was going to quit telly? And then this came up. And
I think he was moving away from acting.
He was going more into directing.
Yeah. He made a show with her where he was directing. So,
1,000 Blows, he directed some of 1,000 Blows.
Mona, were Netflix involved in the casting at all in the process?
I think the trust is the key thing. Like, I think there was trust between us. So Anne, Toby, Bentley, myself, we were in constant contact. And, you know, I'm sort of thinking of the early, we always knew who you had in mind and who you were thinking about. I think when it came to the younger cast, we didn't look obviously at the hundreds, but we saw a number. And I think it was really evident that, you know, listening to these guys talking about the trust and the nurturing, that was really evident. And even the tapes that we saw, sort of, you know, the way that you could see Stephen working with those boys and knowing how much time that took with Phil and you, Matt, and rehearsal. None of it could work in the way that it has unless everyone was giving, I think, and being really generous about that. So the trust is sort of, you know, it's an easy word to throw in, but I think it's absolutely true. Yeah. I think that was absolutely part of it. And it's hard to imagine anyone other than Christine. It's hard to imagine anyone other than Erin. And it sort of felt like that so natural and sort of, it just fitted in a way, but they knew what they were doing,
Yeah.
you know.
To know that, to have that though, I can't tell you how refreshing that is. To have amazing people like this wonderful lady and having that
Not your normal
trust.
experience.
No, it's having trust and just allowing you to do it and just say, just please, just trust us, we've got this.
Yeah.
And just knowing instinctively that we had and allowing us to use these people that we've not necessarily seen on screen before as much as we should. And other people that we've never seen before is just so refreshing and so wonderful because it allows us to find and nurture new talent.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that you and Stephen are really passionate
Massively,
about. Yeah.
yeah.
It's- I sometimes think about this when you hear an amazing song. Like I think, did the Stranglers know that they were creating genius when they recorded Golden Brown? Did you know when you were making it that this was something really special?
We knew we'd done something special. It's tangible. We knew it.
Go on,
we
Christy.
felt it.
You're nodding.
Yeah, you could feel it. You could feel it. I've never felt that on a set before, that beautiful synchronicity between cast and crew. It was such a beautiful collaboration and to be allowed so much freedom as well. It was like we all had each other. It was like doing a beautiful dance.
Yeah.
But you just felt it. It was something else.
Yeah.
I've never felt that before. Not like Adolescence, like that will stay with me forever. And just getting to work with such beautiful people as well. And everyone on that floor really cared. And you were allowed like so much freedom as well.
What's the experience of acting in that way? Because, you know, normally it'd be multi-camera or you'd, you know, just to have the camera, it felt like we were watching, I don't know, when I was watching it, it felt like I was watching, you know, something really, I know Play for the Day is probably not the right, that was my reference, but, you know, it was so real. It felt like we were just in your home. What was it like?
I think it's a wonderful way to work, especially when you're surrounded by people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, Matt on camera.
I remember you calling me the camera fairy or whatever, you didn't, at times, I think because you were so in it, you didn't really feel the presence of us being there very much. And there's me and sometimes 2 boom operators, and sometimes I'm passing the camera to someone else. You know, it's like a lot going on, but I think because you get to be in your head and be in your performance so much, I think we weren't even really there, apart from you know, making sure you don't walk into me or there's a mark there or something, but, you know, like...
Yeah, I'll always remember that moment when we were rehearsing and you had to, I walked out the door and you were like, no, I need to, like, have you on camera?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah.
I was like, no, I need to film you.
I
need to be there.
Well, there was one time when we were rehearsing. Oh my God, that stays with me. I was like, that cannot happen again. And I was in the kitchen, and it was when Amelie goes upstairs, and Stephen had went outside, Eddie, and Stephen comes into the kitchen and he went, what are you doing here? And I was like, what? And he was like, aren't you supposed to be upstairs with the camera? I was like, last week. And I was like, oh my God.
Were you still acting in the kitchen?
No,
Were you still doing something?
Something in my head in the rehearsal jumped to the scene where Stephen comes in and goes, we've got to go to Wainwright's. But there's the scene in between where I go and talk to like...
I was upstairs.
The whole
family. I'm like shaking at the camera. Like, where is she? What's going on?
Are you supposed to be upstairs? And I was like, fuck. And I was like, thank God that was the rehearsal, but I didn't let that happen again. Yeah. I was like, I didn't want to be the one, but you know, Matt, I was like, Matt, it's like you've got wings.
Yeah.
It's like you're just flying with the camera, like a little camera fairy.
Should get that tattooed, shouldn't I? Should get wings.
And that was like,
the wings.
I've never been called that before. But I think working that way as an actor it's wonderful. I mean, it's terrifying, you know, before you hear set, and then it's like, whew, and then it's action, and then you're off. And there's just such a freedom in that, and also who you're surrounded by. You know, working with Stephen, he's an actor who just raises you higher. And, you know, for me, I felt so safe as well. And no one take was the same. It changed every time, and it's just... I think it's a wonderful way to work.
Yeah, well, it was extraordinary to witness and watch, so thank you. Shall we go nerd out and show people?
Let's get nerdy.
Let's get nerdy.
Let's get nerdy.
Let's get nerdy.
What's going on?
All right, we're going to talk about how you actually made it because it was a feat of ingenuity. Look at this. We're going to move
at
over
this.
to the model
going to go on the
section.
screen?
Yeah,
so everyone
let's
can
get them on
actually
the screen. So these, Matt, tell us what we're looking at. What are these?
So this one here is the set build for episode 1, the police station.
So this is the actual set. This is the one.
It was
the
bigger than
model.
this on the day.
Tiny
A bit closer to that size, but bigger than that as well.
Right.
But yeah, essentially this was what we had to work with, and the 2 of these sets, that's for episode 3, were in the same soundstage together in the village that we were
So this is
filming
the
in.
police station. Look, I'm going to give you a pointy stick. There is a pencil.
It's a pencil.
Right. So talk us through.
Where was that
It's
wall?
like these multi-cameras, handheld rigs, cranes,
Yeah, okay, so the challenge of this, I guess,
Yeah.
was, I love having this is ridiculous, the little pencil, was one of them was getting into a set build that you've built when you started an episode out in the streets.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're like, how do we make it not look like we're just going into a warehouse? So we built this sort of, I don't know if we can see it over here. Yeah, there's this carport, ta-da, oh, that should be attached, that we basically pulled into, and then Adam Tomlinson, whose wonderful models these are, our production designer, he essentially built this corridor into the studio itself. So it went through the sort of shutter doors. So every morning they had to open it and like sort of connect the walls again so that there wasn't like a gap. And then, yeah, and so that got us into a stage, and obviously we choreographed the sort of camera move so that we weren't looking at the side of the warehouse as we entered. That would have shattered the illusion somewhat. So, yeah, we sort of pulled in, got in there, and then when we got into this space, and obviously when we were designing it, we had to sort of work out what the best way of building a space for a one-shot is. And I think the methodology was that essentially we wanted to not repeat spaces too much. I think we wanted that feeling of progression in the visual language, sort of in the set build as well. So we didn't want to have to keep going back through the same corridors over and over again. So there's weird things in this one. There's like this bit here, I don't know if you can see it, this corridor there does absolutely nothing. So it literally, there's no doors, there's no sort of reason for that to be there in the world of a police station. But what it did do is meant we didn't have to come back through the middle area again.
Yeah.
And it was just stuff like that where we had to try and think, okay, what's going to look better, what's going to play better for this, even if it doesn't make sense in the world.
You've got the police station, they've come in, you've got the...
Custody desk here.
And then this room is
That's the really horrible green family room that is probably a terrible place to be in.
And then the cells are down here.
Cells go down here.
It's
and
so
then we got
interesting because I remember looking at this, I remember it so well. It's like, oh yeah, of course, I remember the movements. And then this upstairs bit as well.
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sure that we had a sense of scale and it didn't feel just like a sort of bungalow build, like kind of just a single level, because police stations would have multiple levels. So it was very much like, okay, we need to like have a little section, allocate a section to make sure we can have a little upstairs bit with some sort of windows that we have put some sort of, you know, drapes outside. And so it looked like it, you know, there was a bigger space. So it was all in the planning of that.
But there's one scene in particular that did present a unique challenge, and that was the strip search scene. So before we talk about it, let's take a look. Such a powerful scene. Matt, I'll ask you, but obviously, you know, everybody chip in. Like, what was the thinking behind how you shot that one?
I think Emily might be the best to speak about this one, but it came out of a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting because Jack now does believe me that there was a different version of what happened. But we've talked about it before, but originally Phil and Matt were talking about wanting to watch Eddie and then come round and see what's happening with Jamie, and then we'll come back around into the room again. And we were really exploring the practicalities of doing that with a child, with a child actor. Even if we ended up, at one point, we were talking about the casting, we were talking about casting an older child so that we could see this part. But we cast Owen. And so we were really exploring how to do that. And at one point we had a conversation with Netflix to explore the idea of skin-coloured bodysuits so that we wouldn't obviously see anything, but even that implication of a naked child was not going to be allowed. So having then had that parameter, that ended up in your conversation again, didn't it?
And then sort of going to Stephen and being like, okay, so we're going to basically play this out on you entirely for a minute and a half or whatever that is. So, it was only about 30 seconds after that I walked into that wall on one of the takes. So, it was turning out of that door.
Great wobble on the
all of that performance and then,
It was extraordinary, absolutely. Just to stay on Stephen's face was so powerful. And for me, that's the moment he's lost his childhood completely. I mean, we know obviously he lost his childhood before that, but that was this moment the father realises that everything has changed.
And it's interesting, because I think, Jack, you've talked before about, I can't remember what you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when you said about you can only write so much, but it's on the face of...
No, it's the quote that I love, which is Alfred Hitchcock quote, which is just, dialogue is just the words the actors say while their faces tell the story.
Yeah.
And I really believe that.
Yeah.
Talking of acting, I'm going to move on to the next set that we have here, which is for the 3rd episode. Oh my goodness. And this is when Jamie sees his psychologist, who is Bryony Ariston, played by the brilliant Erin Doherty, who I'm slightly obsessed with.
Me too.
Absolutely extraordinary actress. I mean, both of them together. So let's talk through the set first. Like, what have we got?
So I think most people would recognise, well, maybe not, because I've worked very top down on this whole situation, so maybe I recognise it, but essentially this little bit here is our main room that the most of the episode plays out in. There is meant to be a table in there. I don't know where that's gone. Wouldn't fit many people, I guess. It's so small, but anyway, someone's robbed it. We've got a security room here. We've got a coffee or the hot chocolate machine there, and this is our main corridor that we're sort of going up and down. This is obviously all built on the same level, so the elevator bit here is just a gag where we step in. It wasn't real. And you know, the whole sound design thing, and we, you know, do a little wobble of the camera, and it played well enough that, you know, no one ever thinks about it. So that was just simply because we couldn't build up here somewhere. So and then this bit, the reception, it's an interesting testament to what you have to do with a one shot, which is edit in, like, essentially as you're going during the rehearsals, because it started out that we were sort of over here at this sort of like at the counter, and Erin was going to be signing in, and then going through this sort of security buzzer, and then we came through down to the corridor and to the elevator. But as we were doing that, we did a number of versions that way, and it just felt like it was taken.
I kept on trimming the dialogue back
Was
and
it
back
you?
and back. Yeah. And it was because it was a note from Anne, which is just, we need to get to Jamie quicker. And so I was trimming it back and back and back. And then it finally ended with, okay, Erin's late and she's going to run.
And all of Adam's amazing design in that part.
I know.
So much thought had gone onto the murals on the walls. And
Yeah,
everything.
it was everything along there. Lovely stained glass windows on this side that don't get seen.
That table, by the way, is currently on eBay. Someone's
Is it?
I've got a question, because when I was watching it, I was like, oh, did it rain that day? Because, I was like, oh, it must have been raining outside.
It's all this movie magic. There's so much of it.
It was part of the sound design.
Yeah.
See, that's how convinced I was, how real it was. I was like, oh, it actually rained that day.
That would have been a disaster for the plyboard. That would have been horrendous. Again, sound design married up with lighting, we sort of made it feel like a heavier overcast for some of the dialogue, sort of loosely mirroring his emotional state, just so that there's, just to sort of subtly emphasise some of that throughout.
Talking about his emotional state, I think we should watch another clip. Possibly one of the most powerful scenes in the entire series. Let's take a look. Yes, Emily.
It just reminded me, if I've remembered the conversation right, we were in that room all the time, and I think, Hannah, didn't you say something about we need to breathe for a second or something, and that's when you added in the leaving for the coffee machine.
Yeah. That wasn't, But I just wanted to say about Claudius, who's the guard in that thing.
Yes.
And this is some of the hidden juice of Adolescence.
Yeah.
We didn't have day players on this show. Everyone on this show was working on it for at least 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks. Part of our rehearsal process, technical process, script process. And that meant that parts that you'd normally shoot out in a day or two were given the chance to build. And Claudius, because I remember watching on the monitor, Claudius was in character the entire time, even when he was standing outside that room. And he's a brilliant and lovely and wonderful actor. And, and that's one of the things I love about this show, that everyone did their bit, and that we all lifted it up together.
And he had to get in there fast on that take as well, because usually he'd whack in, it would do some distance, right? But this particular one, he whacked it so hard, there were marshmallows up the walls and everything, and he genuinely has to go in there between the time that Erin comes back, goes to the machine and comes back, and clean it up. Well, he had to move so fast to get it.
How do you use the cameras to accentuate that tirade? And just can we discuss him bringing that and the ability as a young actor who's never done any TV work to go there. I think Philip Barattini said that he was almost sort of stuck in the rage.
Yeah, I think at the start it was almost quite
It took him a while.
hard for him to get there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That first week, the first week was Phil, Matt, me and Erin and him in the room, in a room that smelt of sawdust and stuff, and and fresh paint, and he was, because Adam was painting the other half of the set while we were doing this half, and he came in and he had his script down and he was brilliant. He was a really, really good Jamie.
Yeah.
And then through the week, you saw him basically putting the gloves on, and that was due to the brilliance of Phil, who's so gentle and guides so lightly, and that's due to the brilliance of Erin, who whatever he brought to a scene, she would bring something back.
Yeah.
And it really was, it was like a magic trick that first week, watching him take flight.
As fellow actors, I mean, Christine, what did you think of that? I mean, that's not easy to do something like that.
No, not at all. I mean, that's one of my favourite scenes. I remember the first time I watched that, I was like, it's just, I mean, phenomenal. I think that whole episode is just like nothing I've ever seen. And, you know, between Erin and Owen, that magic and that truth. And I think it's such a moment that. And I think also because in my actress mind as well, with Manda, when I first watched it, because I'd obviously read the script, but I hadn't seen it. When I first watched it, it's just to see Jamie flip that way, me watching it, even though I played Manda, that was still there for me.
Yeah.
Of
And
like,
we shot that
wow,
first,
to
didn't
see
we?
that.
That was the first episode we shot.
Oh, wow.
So that was you'd seen that before you then came and
Yeah.
yeah.
Extraordinary.
So I'd read the episode, but the first time I seen it, that was the episode that put me on the floor.
Yeah. Mona, for Netflix, first major UK drama to prompt this kind of conversation, social change that's usually been reserved for public service broadcasters. On a US streamer with a global focus, why has this show resonated as it has?
You know, there's so many ways to respond to that, but just to talk for a second, listening to these guys talk about everything that worked and what made it work, you sort of, it can feel a bit sort of, it can feel just like magic, and it was magic, but it came out of a truthfulness. And just to throw a word in, which is true diversity, because I think unless you have people inside out looking at how those families are made up, looking, not subjectifying, but actually feeling what is truthful and specific, which each of these guys did, and everything was talked through. Watching that scene, thinking about the conversations around Bryony and what she went through on that day, from the minute she comes into that room with the security guard behind her, and every conversation that was had about all of those things came from a place of such authenticity. And that's what makes stories travel, when it feels really specific. So Netflix is a global player, but this is a local story. We did not commission it to be a global hit. We just commissioned it and wanted to tell it and wanted to be engaged in this because it felt like such a powerful story that just got you in the guts, not even to sort of change policy, although I think many of us had teenage boys. So we talked about that a lot, but a lot of it was just how we would all respond to that.
Yeah.
And start conversations in
start a
families,
conversation.
in houses. That's what we
Yeah,
said.
we
We
always
wanted
said that.
people to, whoever was watching it, to sit to the person next to them and go, oh my God.
Which you could have done in the UK.
You could do
but
in the
to
UK.
do that globally, you
It's
know, and often,
extraordinary.
and I'm sure most people in this room know that, you know, you might go and pitch an idea and people say to a streamer, and they might say, well, it's too local. You know, we want something that
But
is
I
global.
don't think it
So
is.
Is this
and
going to change?
I would hope so, in the sense that I think it inspires me to think these are the stories, to Jack, your point, that a story can be, you know, having sat and listened to Shonda this morning, you kind of go, it could be Bridgerton, it could be this. You relate and you connect, and I think isn't all TV public service. I mean, what are we doing if we're not trying to entertain? We shouldn't be making it for ourselves, and we're making it to have conversation, and we're making it to connect with people. And what is that if not public service? I don't know, but I guess it's, you know, it's an amazing thing that it got that platform and that everyone was talking about it all over the world, but that was absolutely not the objective. It was just to make it was to be part of making an extraordinary and supporting an extraordinary show and extraordinary talent from Phil, Matt, Warp, Jack, Stephen, Christine, all of them, you know, it was the full package.
Yeah, I wonder if well, yet to be seen whether it is a game changer in the way that certainly US commissioners see what Britain and producers, you know, more than just, we can do more than just...
But just to say, sorry, from our perspective, it wasn't working with US commissioners.
Yes.
You know, we were working with Anne, Mona, Toby. We were working with a British team who were thinking about a British audience.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably quite an important distinction.
Absolutely,
make.
absolutely. Shall I read out some of your questions? Because we've got quite a few here, so let me bring a couple of these in. This could be to any of you, whoever wants to take it. Were you tempted at any point to dedicate an episode, or maybe to you, Jack, actually, an episode to Katie or Katie's family side of the story?
Yes, but actually we all talked about it quite a lot, and we all realised that would change what it was. We were trying to tell a story that looked from a certain point of view. I did a show called National Treasure that was about historic sex crimes, and we also in exactly the same vein went, we need to tell the victim story, or if we haven't told the whole thing. But if you tell the whole thing, sometimes you risk diluting the bit that you've got. What I wish we had done, in retrospect, is spent slightly longer with Jade. If I could write it again, and unfortunately I spend most of my nights waking up at 3 a.m. going, if I could write it again, about most things I've done, I would have spent a bit longer with Jade, I think, in episode 2, because I think she was wonderful, and I think she'd have given us that extra bit of perspective on Katie. But unfortunately, I can't write it again, and we shot it.
That's the actress. We talk about the school episode. I had major anxiety watching it. Like, how on earth did you orchestrate that?
But can I talk, like, because Hannah was a teacher.
Yes.
Right, okay. And so, like, you know, this is the first time I've been on a panel or an interview about this show talking about it. That school episode was a result of, I worked in a school, Hannah spent a long time in schools, and we both had a real passion to talk about schools that aren't doing so well. And the schools, and it was so interesting, the response, because there was teachers going, that would never happen in schools, and then other teachers going, you've got that spot on. And what that showed is we've got a real problem in our country, because there's a certain level of schooling which is complacent about the schools that we're allowing to sink.
Yeah.
And we're...
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. But what, in terms of, you want to know about how that was facilitated?
No, actually, just picking up on that scene, because it was a really powerful scene, is with the actress Fatima, who is another young talent. I mean, again, the layers and layers of stories that we were getting that built up a picture of this community was just, you know, extraordinary.
When she sent her tape in, I would say she was probably the part that you knew immediately it was her.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Also, the young actor who played Ashley Walters' son.
Oh,
Brilliant. And just that line, I just want to stop you from embarrassing yourself, Dad. Like, let me tell you what's going on. Very good. Loads of questions, so we're running out of time, but let's try and get through some of these. They're all anonymous. Where did Brad Pitt come into all of this?
So Plan B is his production company,
Yes.
Jeremy Kleiner, so that's where he got involved in it all.
And Stephen's been friends with Brad for quite some time, and Brad loved Boiling Point, he loved the one-shot element, he spoke to Jeremy, and that's how it came about.
How can we encourage production companies to take risks, a chance on younger talent like Matt? Careers aren't as linear anymore, but some execs are stuck in an old mindset. Emily?
Suddenly a lot of eyes come onto me.
Get on and do it. Just get on and do it.
That we do. I think that that's absolutely what Warp's ethos is. And I think that, you know, we want to speak to young talent and hear from young talent. And if we believe in them as much as we, you know, feel that we should, then we will be the people that will push them and talk to commissioners about them. And I think it's about, you know, getting an agent helps upfront. It helps break that first conversation to happen, and we will read.
But talk about Finding Billy, because they did a brilliant show this year called Reunion that everyone in this room should watch if they haven't already watched. How did you find Billy?
Yeah. So Billy came through, he had worked on the Channel 4 screenwriters course, wrote a script with them, which Gwen Gorst, one of our EPs, had read, absolutely championed till the cows came home, said we must do this, and BBC agreed. But it was through us pushing.
Yeah, but no, he'd never written anything before, and then he wrote this, and suddenly, amazing writer.
You are going to get so many CVs after this. Okay, very quickly, did anything go wrong in the one-shot process that had you suddenly and radically change the script or storyline?
There's probably nothing that went wrong technically that then affected the script.
No.
I don't think.
I think maybe the potential ending of episode 2 played around with, didn't we? With
Toby Bentley.
Toby, where are you?
Yeah, wherever Toby is. I kept writing in this script that they needed to go to the murder scene because I thought it was really important. And Matt kept saying, the way you're writing this is absolutely crap.
I don't think I used those words.
and I kept doing it. And with every draft, and it kept going back, you can't do that, that's shit. And then Matt and Phil had a conversation about making the camera fly, which is the end of the episode where they strap it onto the drone. And then halfway through shoot week, Toby Bentley, one of our brilliant execs, said, I think we need to see Stephen in this episode. And Stephen was already on set.
Yeah, he was not contracted to be on set, though, as a performer.
Yeah.
So he wasn't allowed to actually go on, even though we were all in agreement that this was a brilliant idea from Toby and we should do it. And Stephen was gagging, and we had to strap him down because he was not contractually obliged. He couldn't go on, so he wasn't actually allowed to rehearse it. So it was Phil's brother who actually rehearsed it.
Sat in the van.
Until we got
He was a good actor, by the way.
He's a great actor.
He's good.
The security guard in episode 4 coming out.
And the last one from the audience, and I think this is on behalf of all of us, really, not a question, just a thank you for making one of the most important pieces of art of our time.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a good one. So much more I want to ask you.
Let's just stay
so
for another hour, shall we? Lock the doors.
Got nowhere else to be. I want to come to the very last question to ask you about your favourite TV show of the last 50 years, because we are celebrating 50 years here. But somebody said something really interesting, and I think this is something to think, because I certainly thought about it, which was, and they said it this morning, we were talking about the casting and the fact that we are watching this happen in a very, very relatable, working class, hard-working white family in Britain. And they said, because he's just too cute to be a murderer. And I think that sentence is why this really does hit so hard. It's just a really interesting thing that someone said that, leave you with all that, but with that thought anyway. So we have just got 2.5 minutes left. Enough time to get your favourite TV shows of the last 50 years.
So hard.
British. Thank you, Jack. Very important detail.
It's very hard, and it's very aging, can we say?
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed already.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to choose?
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
It's really hard to say. So you could pick different terms. So I'm going to say Press Gang.
Yes.
Which I love. Our Friends in the North.
Oh, you've got 2. Hang on a minute.
I'm going off. I'm going. Can I keep saying? And Dempsey and Makepeace out of.
It's not British, but it's all right.
Dempsey and Makepeace.
Well, she was American. They were American.
She was British.
They were both American.
No.
Pardon?
I wanted to be one of them.
That came over from New York.
Hands up, Dempsey and Makepeace British.
It's British.
Sorry. Christine, your favourite TV show?
I don't know if that was 70s. It's like Boys from the Black Stuff.
Yeah, very good.
And then I love Succession, but that's American, isn't it?
Not allowed that one.
You're allowed to say it, though.
I don't know, there's so many.
I'll give it to you. Boys from the Black Stuff.
Okay, this is England.
Oh, I was going to say that. Well, I was going to say that, but that's a bit naughty, isn't it? But I would also say, for me, Porridge.
Yeah, very good.
Because it's just you.
Jack?
I was going to say Boys from the Black Stuff, which is my favourite TV show of all time, but I'm going to say Holding On, Tony Marchand's Holding On, which is a work of profound genius,
brilliant.
I think.
Yeah. Very good. Emily.
Oh, it was just all of those and more. But for me, what made me think TV was awesomely cool is Children's Ward.
Yes.
Which it turns out brought Hannah and Stephen
Well,
together.
I have a fun story about that. Very, very quickly. I can tell you very, very quickly. So I remember watching Children's Ward when I was about 12 and somebody burnt the ward down. And as a 12-year-old, I was like that. Oh, he's a bit naughty, isn't he? Fast forward to when I was 22 and I'd known Stephen for a couple of years and we're just talking about, you know, what things he'd done. And he said, oh, yeah, because I did Children's Ward. I went, did you? What part did you play? He went, I burnt down the ward. I went, no way. Hang on a minute. Yeah, so I've coveted him since I was 12.
It was meant to be. And Matt, come on.
You guys already know what I was getting.
Boo.
Yeah, boo. But for me, like, just because I grew up with this, so when you guys asked earlier, I was like, this is the one that's
I'm not
the
booing
most...
because the show's
No,
bad.
I'm
booing
defending
because
myself
you're a
already.
child.
Oh, okay. But I grew up with this, so David Tennant era Doctor Who. I just have to, like, Doctor Who generally, for me, like, growing up, I was like, I just love this. I just love storytelling suddenly. I really realised it, I think, at that age, and that was when
But he
I
was
was only...
growing up watching the David
I
Tennant
know.
Doctor Who.
That's the point.
Well, it worked by then.
Do you remember? It's that thing in telly. We were always once upon a time we were all the youngest. No more.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I used to be called a young writer.
The young writer Jack Thorne.
My career...
Now the miserable writer Jack. This has been such a privilege, hasn't it? We've just thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Thank you for being so generous and open with your time. Congratulations. Honestly. Wonderful. Thank you, Mona, Christine, Hannah, Jack, Emily, and Matt. And thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.